Where do we need to be focusing on? What should be the main focus points for us, specifically in the SEC when it comes to spring football? Now, full disclaimer here. Spring football is for taking a temperature, not for making a diagnosis. So you can learn as much as you're able to during spring ball, but don't mistake spring football for fall football, okay? You're happy to see things trend in a positive direction, but until things actually happen on the field, that's when it actually becomes a little bit more concrete and you can start making some more definitive statements. So let's start out there in Auburn, Alabama, because they did just start spring football. The thing that we got to be focused on is Peyton Thorne. Is he making strides as the guy at Auburn? Because we understand now their quarterback situation could look a lot different after spring football. Wouldn't be the first time Hugh Freeze went into the portal post-spring and got someone to make that quarterback room better. So we'll see what happens there. But remember now, Peyton Thorne did not get spring football last season. And I have been on record many times saying I fully believe that impacted his success or lack thereof in 2023 because last season they scored 25 points a game as an offense. Not going to cut it. Don't care what conference you're in. Peyton Thorne threw under 100 yards, not 200 yards, under 100 yards in 5 different games. So now you get a full spring practice. You get a full 15 practices to kind of gel, get more comfortable in the offense. Hugh Freeze is now calling the plays. Does that make the difference? Again, there's no way we're going to know for sure in spring football, but there's a couple of key indicators we can look at. The first is there definitive buzz? Is there definitive statements being made by Hugh Freeze when he talks about Peyton Thorne? And that would sound a lot like this. Hey, from last year to this year, he's night and day. He's night and day. You'd want to hear something like that. The thing that I'm a little bit curious about, if he says something like, yeah, he's coming along. Yeah, we're pleased with his progress. If it's not definitive, hey, he is much better than he was last year, then I think there's a little bit of reading into what we're doing there, but that's something that I would keep an eye on. Also, what do your eyes tell you? Right? We all watch a lot of college football. We're all sickos for this sport. We're talking about spring football, and Auburn just started yesterday. What do you see when Peyton Thorne trots out there for the spring game and runs the offense? What's the temperature you get? Does he look in command? Does he look more confident? Does he look like he knows where to go with the football, where to check it down? Does he look like he's confident throwing that bang 8 downfield? I'm telling you, it's a temperature, but I think you can learn a lot from taking a temperature. Texas, it's going to take a while here for us to get totally acclimated to talking about Texas as an SEC football team, but nonetheless, man, they have a lot to replace at the skill positions. 1,800 yards receiving is a massive hole that's being left by Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy, but Steve Sarkisian did what Steve Sarkisian does. Texas went to the portal and got after it, landing guys like a Silas Bolden from Oregon State, Isaiah Bond from Alabama, Amari Niblack, also from Alabama, landed Golden from Houston. So they got some new faces in that room. My big question for spring football, do they get up to speed and get synced up with Quinn Ewers? Because as talented as those guys are, they will only be as effective as they are on the same page with Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers came back now. You got to maximize him. We talked about the same thing with Isaiah Bond. I'm curious to see how it looks with the rest of this group. The way that we can kind of keep a gauge on this is reading the reports over at Inside Texas, get on the message boards, get after it there, get a membership there. Best coverage when it comes to Texas football. Hearing things like, yeah, Silas Bolden, Isaiah Bond, that whole group, they were out there before practice, running through the script with Quinn Ewers. They were out there after practice, running through different routes with Quinn Ewers, getting synced up, being on the same page. Because Texas last year, that was a big part of their offense. They were top 20 in the country in yards per pass and their completion percentage. Okay, anytime that completion percentage is high, obviously hat tip to the quarterback for being accurate, but just as much, you got a hat tip to that wide receiving room to being on the same page as their quarterback. Timing, chemistry, that's everything. That's going to be a massive factor for Texas their first year in the SEC with all those news faces. Ole Miss. Is their defense as advertised? Because that has been a major talking point throughout the course of this offseason to this point, man. Like, Lane Kiffin went to work in the portal. Went to work. Landed 9 new transfers on the defensive side alone. Most notably, Walter Nolan and Princely Uman-Miel on the defensive line. What does it look like for them during spring practice when you hear reports about who won the day? Because that's always a thing that, is baked into a spring intel or a spring practice report. Hey, defense probably won the day today. And that's not uncommon to hear those first few practices because the offense is still going through their install. You got some new faces, got some guys that were lower on the depth chart starting to step into a new role. So it's not uncommon for the defense to win those first, 6 or 7 practices, to win the majority of those. When we get to practice 10, when the pads are popping, we got some scrimmages under our belt, what is the practice report around who won the day? Because I'll tell you this now, if you're the Ole Miss defense, you're going to get the work in practice, all right? You're going to have a tremendous competitive battle on your hands every single time you lace them up. That offense last year, they got even better through the portal as well with Juice Wells, but they averaged 32 points a game. Jackson Dart gets another year in the system. Trey Harris gets another year in the system. So if we hear about Ole Miss's defense winning a few practices during the spring season, again, taking a temperature, but I think that's a tremendous, tremendous sign for what they could be in 2024 because you got a college football playoff caliber offense. I don't think that's a stretch in saying that. If you have a defense to match, Ole Miss is going to be a problem. Straightforward, Ole Miss is going to be a problem. Now, LSU, we've talked about them a fair amount already on this show, but Garrett Nussmeier and his decision-making has got to be the thing that you're watching if you're an LSU fan. I know you're watching what the defense looks like. It's obviously a big part of this, but we know Garrett Nussmeier can launch it, man. There's no secret about that. Dude can absolutely deal the pill. There's no secret how much he can throw the football downfield. The question is, can he play within the structure of the offense and go where he needs to go with the football? Because the knock on Garrett Nussmeier since he's been in Baton Rouge is, hey, dude likes to throw the football a quarter mile. The problem is sometimes when he gets to the end of that quarter mile, there's 2 defenders there, and one of those defenders makes a play on the football as the interception going the other way. If he can do the right things in practice and kind of get into that habit of just taking what the defense gives him, check it down. When it's there, take it. When you got C.J. Daniels wide open downfield, man, or you got a window you can fit it into, Garrett Nussmeier, trust your arm. But if you can be within the structure of this offense with Joe Sloan, I think good things will happen. I think last year was a really good sample size for us. I understand now Mike Denbrock gone to Notre Dame, Jaden Daniels gone to the league, but you got an offensive line that can protect them. You got a defense that I think will be substantially better with Blake Baker running the show. If Garrett Nussmeier doesn't crash the car and can do what he's capable of doing, which is put up big numbers in the pass game, LSU is going to be a force. LSU will absolutely be a force. One more team I want to get to here, the Georgia Bulldogs. Carson Beck now going into year 2. There was some buzz around the NFL for him when the season ended. He's back, though. He's back. And the thing that I would love to hear from a Georgia Bulldog fan around Carson Beck is, hey, he's in command, he's dicing it up, and not just because he's your starting quarterback and that means the offense is doing good things, specifically because in year 2 for Carson Beck, I think you're going to need to ask more of him than you did last year. Ladd McConkey was a dude for you when he was healthy. Brock Bowers, you played without him for a period of time last year, but he was obviously a massive part of that offense when he was there. They're not there anymore. You brought in some new faces, London Humphreys, Colby Young. There's going to be some new characters in the mix here. Carson Beck probably has to be the guy to be the catalyst for that offense. But I just want to see him look like a year 2 starter that came back for a reason to Georgia, that came back with some unfinished business. I'd love to hear Carson Beck being more of a vocal leader. He's a big lead-by-example guy. I want to see him get after some dudes, kind of set the temperature in that locker room, set the temperature during spring practice. Because when your quarterback is leading the show, when your quarterback is not just your quarterback but the guy, not to say that he wasn't, but if he takes another step in being the guy, it permeates throughout the entirety of your roster. When you know that the dude touching the football for you every single offensive snap is bought in throughout the entirety of the team, does wonders for your approach in the week-to-week and day-to-day. So Carson Beck taking that next step and just feeling like he's that dude, right? And understanding throughout Athens, like, hey, this is the guy, and he believes he's the guy. I think that's a tremendous temperature you'd like to take in spring football in Athens. So this will be something that we might do throughout the course of, I guess, the next couple of weeks as we get into spring football. Obviously, we didn't touch on every single team in the SEC. So get at me on Twitter, get at me on Instagram, and let me know what you're focusing on when it comes to spring football within the Southeastern Conference. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.